What if I told you that the most successful pirate in history wasn't Blackbeard or Calico Jack, but a former prostitute from China? A woman who commanded a fleet that some estimate grew to over 1,500 ships and nearly 80,000 pirates, and who brought the world's most powerful empires to their knees. This is the story of the pirate queen who ruled the seas, a name that history tried to forget. Ching Shih. Our story begins in 1775, in the coastal province of Guangdong, China. Born Shiyang into a life of poverty, her options were few. Like many young women with no other path, she ended up in sex work on one of the floating brothels in the city of Canton. These boats were a world unto themselves, hubs of secrets and information, frequented by merchants, sailors, and the most dangerous men on the seas. It was here, amidst the chaos and desperation, that she learned to be a shrewd judge of character, a master of manipulation, and a brilliant businesswoman. These were skills that would soon serve her in a way no one could have ever predicted. In 1801, her life took a dramatic turn. She caught the eye of a man named Cheng Wan, a notoriously powerful pirate commander. Cheng Wai was no ordinary outlaw. He was busy uniting the region's warring pirate gangs into a formidable confederation. He saw in the 26-year-old woman not just beauty, but a keen mind and a ruthless ambition that matched his own. Accounts differ on whether she was abducted or joined him willingly, but one detail remains consistent. She did not become his property. Ching Shih demanded a partnership. She agreed to marry him only if she received an equal share of his plunder and partial command over his entire pirate fleet. It was an audacious demand, but Cheng Wai agreed. With that, the prostitute from Canton stepped aboard a pirate junk not as a captive, but as a co-commander. Together, Ching Shih and Cheng Wanpo transformed their red flag fleet into the dominant power on the South China Sea. She was the organizer and consolidator. He was the unifier and patriarch. They established a naval empire, and their fleet swelled from 200 ships to over 600. But in 1807, just 6 years into their partnership, disaster struck. Cheng Ronborn died suddenly. Some say in a typhoon, others whisper of murder. In that moment, Ching Shih, now known as Cheng's widow, found herself in a precarious position. Any other woman might have faded into obscurity, her power vanishing with her husband's last breath. But Ching Shih wasn't just any other woman. She moved with breathtaking speed and cunning. She knew that to hold power, she needed a loyal ally, someone the other pirates would follow. She found him in her late husband's adopted son, and second in command, a young, formidable pirate named Chung Po Tsai. Chung Po Tsai was set to inherit control of the fleet. But Ching Shih forged a powerful political and personal alliance with him, quickly entering into a relationship and eventually marrying him. This strategic move secured Chung Po Tsai's unwavering loyalty and solidified her own authority. With her most powerful potential rival now her closest partner, she faced down the other fleet commanders and asserted her absolute control. The widow had become the queen, and the red flag fleet, now larger and more unified than ever, was hers to command. To rule an empire of outlaws, you need more than just fear. You need order. Ching Shih's true genius wasn't just in battle, but in governance. She understood that a sprawling confederation of thousands of violent, greedy pirates could easily tear itself apart. So, she implemented a strict, non-negotiable code of laws that every pirate under her command had to obey. The code was brutal and efficient. Any pirate who disobeyed a direct order was beheaded on the spot. Anyone who went ashore without permission would have their ears slit for a first offense. A second offense meant death. But her laws were also surprisingly progressive and showed off her sharp business sense. All plunder had to be presented for inspection before it was distributed. The pirate who captured the loot received 20%, while the remaining 80% went into a collective fund. This massive treasury was used to repair ships, buy supplies, and ensure the entire fleet remained a well-oiled machine. Stealing from this common fund was an automatic death sentence. Most remarkably, her code provided unprecedented protections for female captives. While piracy was a brutal business, Ching Shih's laws were clear. Any pirate who raped a female captive was executed. If a pirate and a captive engaged in consensual relations, both were put to death. If a pirate wished to take a captive as his wife, he could only do so with her consent, and he was required to be faithful to her. This wasn't just about morality. It was about discipline. By eliminating sources of internal conflict, she ensured her pirates were focused on one thing only: the success of the fleet. Her code turned a chaotic mob into a disciplined, professional, and terrifyingly effective army. Under Ching Shih's command, the Red Flag Fleet became an unstoppable force. At its peak, estimates suggest she controlled an armada of up to 1,800 ships and around 80,000 pirates. To put that into perspective, the infamous Blackbeard, at the height of his power, commanded just 4 ships and 300 men. Ching Shih's fleet was larger than many national navies at the time. She was more than a pirate. She was the CEO of a massive maritime enterprise. Her fleet didn't just plunder. It controlled huge swathes of the South China Sea. Coastal villages from Macau to Canton paid her protection money, and any merchant ship wanting safe passage had to buy a pass from her fleet. She expanded her business into salt trading and established a sophisticated intelligence network on land, using villagers, farmers, and even corrupt officials as spies to track the movements of merchant ships and naval fleets. Her power was absolute. She held court on the waves, a floating government that challenged the authority of the Qing dynasty itself. The name Ching Shih inspired terror and respect. She had transformed piracy from simple robbery into a full-blown administration, an empire built on water, ruled by a woman who had once been considered disposable. An empire that powerful doesn't go unnoticed. The Qing emperor was humiliated that a woman, a former prostitute, controlled the seas and resources he considered his own. He dispatched the imperial navy to destroy her. What followed was a series of crushing defeats for the Chinese government. In 1808, a massive Qing fleet set out to crush the Red Flag Fleet once and for all. Ching Shih didn't run. She met them head-on. By the end of the battle, the Imperial Navy was decimated, with 63 ships lost to the pirates. Ching Shih cleverly offered the defeated sailors a choice: join her or die. Many chose to join, swelling her ranks and further weakening the government's forces. Her dominance attracted the attention of other global powers. The Portuguese and the British, whose lucrative trade routes were being disrupted, sent their own navies to deal with her. For years, the Red Flag Fleet battled the world's most powerful navies to a standstill. However, the tide began to turn around 1809. The Portuguese Navy, using more maneuverable ships, managed to inflict a series of defeats during the brutal Battle of the Tiger's Mouth. For the first time, the Pirate Queen was on the defensive, cornered by the combined might of multiple empires. The net was closing in. Trapped and facing overwhelming force, Ching Shih knew a fight to the death would be the end of her and her tens of thousands of followers. A lesser leader might have made a desperate last stand. But Ching Shih's greatest weapon had never been just her cannons. It was her mind. She saw an opportunity where others would only see defeat. Instead of waiting to be destroyed, she decided to negotiate her own surrender. But she would do it on her own terms. In 1810, she sailed, unarmed, into the office of the Governor-General in Canton. She didn't come to beg for mercy. She came to bargain. What followed was one of the most successful negotiations in the history of piracy. Ching Shih secured a universal amnesty for every single pirate in her fleet. They would not be prosecuted. Not only that, but they were allowed to keep all their ill-gotten loot. Several of her top commanders, including her husband Chung Po-tsai, were given high-ranking positions in the Chinese military. And as for Ching Shih herself, she retired from piracy, a free and incredibly wealthy woman. It was an outcome almost unheard of for any pirate, let alone the most hunted one in the world. She hadn't been defeated, she had simply decided to end the game. And she had won. Ching Shih's story is a powerful reminder of how many incredible figures have been written out of our history books. If you're fascinated by the untold stories of history's most formidable figures, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss who we uncover next. After her retirement, Ching Shih's life was anything but quiet. She used her vast fortune to open a gambling house, with some sources saying she also ran a brothel, in Canton or possibly Macau. She lived out the rest of her days in peace and prosperity, surrounded by her family, and died in 1844 at the age of 69. Her journey is one of the most remarkable in history. From a girl with no name in a floating brothel to the commander of the largest pirate armada the world has ever seen, she built an empire, wrote her own laws, defeated the navies of nations, and then, when she decided she was done, she negotiated her own peaceful retirement. She didn't just play the game in a man's world, she changed the rules and beat the house. It leaves us with a lingering question. What does it say about history that the most successful and powerful pirate captain of all time was a woman whose story most of us have never even heard?